Many years ago, I got a job on a small island in Okinawa. The job was to teach English for the children at a small church that was on the island. It was a Catholic church, which was rare, but Okinawa seemed to have a larger following to Christianity than anywhere else in Japan. The person who ran the school was Sister Nana, a local Okinawan woman who was very short in stature, but big in heart and soul. She carried the violet aura. When I went to take the job, Sister Nana saw how I played with the kids and immediately hired me. She said, "This is the man that I want." At first, I was very reluctant to take the job because it was a Christian church. And during my childhood, I had an aversion towards Christianity, mostly because of my grandmother's need to play with Evangelica and some uncomfortable experiences during my childhood. However, Sister Nana looked very sincere, and it was Okinawa, the place where I practiced a very specific kind of martial art at the time. So I was very pleased with the location. It quickly became evident that this was set up by my ancestors and probably the angels in the other side. Sister Nana was a very interesting person. She knew Christianity better than most people I've ever talked about. She told me a lot of things about the Catholic Church, things that she disagreed with, such as the Crusades. She was very disappointed in the Catholic Church, but she believed very strongly in Christ. She often confided in me that when she was young, she believed that a woman who went to her church and also went to a Shinto shrine as well as a Buddhist temple was stupid, because she kept going to all these different religions which the Catholic Church considered to be just fetishes or idol worshipping. She quickly realized that it was the expression of God in many ways, and that this woman was actually very clever. I watched Sister Nana when she was confronted with some very evil people or very desperate people. She was very patient with them. She believed that through Christ or through love or through patience, she could at least help them in some way. She taught me a lot about how to garden. She loved gardening. That was her main joy outside of the church and educating the children. She grew everything in her garden, mostly flowers, but also lots of herbs. So I decided to make a lot of basil sauce for her and the other sisters at the school. They were very appreciative of the pesto sauce because it was very nourishing as well as very easy for me to make. We could make so much basil in that climate. And of course, I made her a lot of cappuccinos because the sisters really had nothing. They had a room, a desk, a bed, and a cross above the desk, and that was about it. They had nothing else. They truly did live very humble lives. All the money went into the school. There was no exception, that and their small church. So the cappuccinos, the pesto sauce, the pasta I made for them was a very welcome sight for such a humble environment. It was during this time, making these things for them, that she began to tell me that actually the word cappuccino comes from the cappuccino organization within the Catholic Church. The monks that used to wear the brown robes with the white trim on it was where the word cappuccino came from. The cappuccino in Japanese, cappuccino dantai. And how other things that the Catholic Church usually doesn't teach, like how Judas committed suicide after he had gotten the money for turning in Christ, and other things like that. And of course, he was sinning again, committing another sin by committing suicide. And all these other things that they don't really teach you in the Catholic schools or anything. And it was a very fascinating learning lesson from her. I learned a lot of things about her. and about the Catholic Church and the good things as well as the bad things. The most amazing thing to me about Sister Nana is she didn't support the Catholic Church 100%. She knew when they did things wrong. She was upset by it. She occasionally did use the Catholic Church as a shield when she got in some sort of trouble or something, or when got attacked. She could use the Catholic Church as something to fall back on. But for the most part, she saw the Catholic Church for what they really were. But despite this, she felt that she got the calling to do this kind of work her whole life. And it seemed to be the case. She seemed to be more dedicated to Christ than the Catholic Church, which seemed to be the correct path for her. Later, when she did pass, my ancestors came up to me and said she passed her test. She met Christ after she died, and they showed me in my psyche, and there was no one happier than her to have known that she got it right. However, it wasn't perfect, and she had to come back and make her mistakes in spirit form. And that would take another video on how that works. But in any case, she had cleared the game, which made me realize that people here on this planet at this time who are playing the good versus evil game, that the whole concept of Christianity is really geared for those people, which is why it's such a turnoff when I hear some Christians say that if you don't believe in Christ, you go to hell, Jesus saves, and many other obnoxious things that really have nothing to do with Christ. During my near-death experience, or out-of-body experiences, I got to see Sister Nana again, and we immediately understood each other very well, and immediately understood how much we loved each other as spiritual friends. I do hope to see her again in another life, in another way, in another form at some time. She really was a remarkable person. She will, of course, have to do all of her so-called angel work before she gets there, but that will only make her stronger. Some of the biggest issues I saw is how people use Christ's name in their own agenda, in their own selfish needs, and this included her own church. She had some people who were going to church just to say that I'm Catholic and I'm special and I'm someone different, as well as many other ways that they use the church for their own advantage. Other versions of Christianity, of course, do the same thing and make up all kinds of things that are not true. During my near-death experience, when I saw Sister Nana, I also saw the Christ and the Christ angels. And the Christ angels kept pointing out, it said, yeah, we hate the Satanists, and if you're Christian, they're going to come after you because all Satanists hate Christians. But the main problem wasn't them. It was the moralistic angels that use Christ's name for their own agenda. They say things that are not true. They use the Bible that has parts of it that is true and parts of it that are not true or have been distorted over time. And this is what the most infuriating thing is that a lot of people say that they know God, that they know Christ because they read the Bible or they heard this or heard that. And none of this is true. And most of those will fall into the inferno just as the Satanists do. And you never hear or see any of that. And that was most frustrating to the real Christian angels who practice certain things that have nothing to do with what is made up in the Matrix. However, that's part of the struggle. You have to find out the truth yourself. And of course, that's going to be different for different people. Sister Nana and I don't always agree with one another. My ancestors are very different from hers. But in some ways, they're very similar. She's Okinawan. And the Okinawan Utasan are very much like our Celtic witches in Scotland and Ireland. The white witches, of course. And the Druids. So in that sense, we're very similar in a lot of ways. But because she's a Catholic and was on the Christian path game, she was playing a different game. now that we saw each other on the other side, there were very few things that we disagreed with. A few things, but very small things. And of course, there's always a deeper meaning on both sides. And of course, if we talk it out, we understand one another very well. And that's what made Sister Nana so special to me. It was the one Christian experience that started out to be very hesitant for me, but ended up being one of the most precious experiences I had on this planet at this time. Now, she did pass away about 20 years ago, I believe it's now. 15, 20 years ago, or something like this. However, she does show up in my psyche from time to time. I know she's playing angel on the other side. I know she's trying to get her loved ones out of this game or through this game. And she does understand Christ, but she also understands the darker side of Christ and Christianity very well. And again, that will take another video to explain what that is. But the most important thing she taught me was that Christ and the Christ angels represent love. And anything outside of that is not Christ or love or God. And there's a lot of stuff that's made up in the Matrix that has nothing to do with it. My favorite quote from her is that if anybody goes running around in politics, for example, says vote for me because I'm Christian, it's actually committing a sin by her standards, by the Christian standards. The reason being is God is love. God is not on anyone's side, not on anyone's ballot. God does not play for anyone but love. You find the path of Christ through love and nothing else. You can make mistakes. Mistakes are extremely important. If you don't make mistakes, you won't learn. So Sister Nana knew she made a lot of mistakes, but she also knew that by making those mistakes, she could see clearly that the path really was just patience, love, all the virtues that are the opposite of all the sins, of course. And that was the game in this life for her to play. Now, I have heard the next life she's going to have is probably be something more aligned with the Yuta-san or the old Okinawan religions, because she was one of these people originally. Her ancestors are from there. And, of course, we could all say God bless her for that. Sister Nana represented something very important to me. She showed me that there are people in this world who are on the Christ game for specific reasons, mainly to clear the good versus evil game. And once you clear it, you can move on to something else. Now, of course, our ancestors have already cleared this game, and they are naturally loving beings, very much so. So they don't need this game. And that was the most important lesson from her. This really, the reality at this time is really about that. The souls that refuse to let go of evil or corrupt ways or selfish ways, etc., and those who have cleared this game already, and those who are clearing it or taking their time to clear it. Now, some people do come into this world just to improve themselves by going through the same sort of game that Sister Nana did over and over again, not because they're not loving beings, but just to make themselves stronger, which is what Sister Nana is doing in spiritual form at this time. So for me, this was a real eye-opener for how the game works. And this is why I find Sister Nana's experience so important. Well, that's all for About Sister Nana. I hope you enjoyed this. Please, if you have any questions, let me know. And thank you for listening.